Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the fifth session of the Tech Up Empowering Startup series. These sessions aim to create a platform where successful founders share their perspectives and the challenges faced by emerging startups. This event is organized under the SIDBI Cluster Intervention Program in collaboration with TIDE NCR and ISPA. Joining me on the moderation panel is Dr. Amit Sehgal, Director, Sharda Launchpad Federation. Over to you, Amit, for a quick introduction.
Thank you, Abhishek. Very good afternoon to everyone and welcome to the webinar. I'm Dr. Amit Sehgal, as Abhishek has introduced my name. So working as Director with Sharda Launchpad Federation, which is the business incubator of Sharda University. So we are working here with the startups right from the early stage to the accelerator stage, helping them providing support through the entire startup ecosystem that we have with us.
Thanks, Dr. Amit. To begin with, I now invite Mr. Ankit Chauhan from Delhi NCR Innovation Cluster to introduce to this initiative by SIDBI. Over to you, Ankit, please.
Thank you, Abhishek, and welcome Mr. Daya and Dr. Sehgal. Good afternoon all. I welcome you all to the SIDBI Cluster Intervention Program. As part of this program, SIDBI is developing multiple MSME clusters across India to boost their competitiveness. On the innovation front, this approach has been introduced for the first time. We have created innovation clusters in Delhi NCR and Pune region with a network of 60 plus incubators, 1,000 plus startups, and hundreds of mentors, investors, and other innovation stakeholders. All these innovation stakeholders have been onboarded on the Let's Startup platform for collaboration and co-creation. Through this Tech Up Empowering Startup series, we aim to ease the entrepreneurial journey for the early stage startups and aspiring entrepreneurs through the insights of successful founders. All your questions have been collated and grouped across 4 categories: technical, financial, market, and sales related. Now, without further ado, I invite Abhishek to start the session. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thanks, Ankit. Thanks. Requesting all the participants, if they want to ask their questions to the speaker, use the Q&A option available on the webinar, and we will try to take as many as questions possible. So let's begin today's session. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to welcome an exceptional individual today whose innovative ideas and dedication have significantly influenced the insurance industry. Let me welcome our mentor for today, Mr. Yashish Daya, co-founder of the India's leading digital insurance company, PolicyBazaar.com, and a leading online market for investment and trading products, PolicyBazaar.com. Let me give a brief intro. Let me read out a brief intro of Yashish. Yashish Daya is the chairman and CEO of PB Fintech. He co-founded PolicyBazaar in 2008, which leads Indian digital insurance sales with over $2 billion of premium and over 1 million customers per month. The group also started PolicyBazaar.com, an online marketplace for investment and lending products in 2014, which is also a market leader in its domain, and over 30 million customers taking monthly credit score refreshes and partners with 68 banks in India. PB Fintech got publicly listed in November 2021 and continues on its path of creating significant social impact on the citizens of India. Before starting his entrepreneurial journey with PolicyBazaar.com, Yashish was the managing director of ebookers.com, a leading pan-European online travel distributor, which also has FTSE 250 company listed on NASDAQ. Yashish also has a management consultant with Bain & Co. in their London office. He holds a bachelor degree in engineering from IIT Delhi, a postgraduate diploma in management from Ahmedabad, and an MBA from INSEE. Yashish likes to spend his spare time outdoors. He is the current master national champion in swimming and is the 5th fastest Ironman from India across all ages. Let's extend a warm welcome to Yashish, a true luminary in the fintech industry. Hi, Yashish. Welcome to the Tech Up Empowering Startup series. Thanks, Yashish. So as we begin, we would like you to reflect on your journey on building PolicyBazaar from a startup to India's largest digital insurance sales company. Could you share the peaks and valleys of this journey? Persevere despite the challenges, actually.
Sure. Thanks, Abhishek. So PolicyBazaar was started about 17 years ago. And when we started, we thought there was, a middle class emerging in India, middle class defined as people earning more than 5 lakh rupees per year. And at the same time, nuclear families was happening in India, because the joint family system was kind of 2 generations ago, and what we felt was social security was still not there. Social security means the ability to take care of children's education, lifestyle, living expenses like house rentals and standard expenses, food, healthcare, pensions. None of the infrastructure was there in case somebody lost their job or somebody was not well or somebody died very early. We decided that it was very important we educated people uh, on this situation where anybody could find themselves if the unfortunate events happened. So we now spent 16, 17 years doing that. If I talk about valleys and troughs and all that, I think we've had our set of challenges, but thankfully over these last 15 years, we stayed somewhat true to our purpose, and because of that, lot of a brand has been built where people, when they're looking for health insurance or term insurance, are coming naturally to PolicyBazaar. And as they come naturally, it gives us as employees of PolicyBazaar the ability to connect with them and thus be part of their insurance transaction. And that allows us to make some money. We have also, been able to get good disclosure on both sides. One, when the customer buys, see, insurance is a very special category. Before you sell to the person, you need to know everything about them. Do they drink? Do they smoke? Do they have a BMI issue? Do they have a disease? Did their parents have a disease? You need to know a lot about them. And every disclosure makes the sales process harder. At the same time, the customer needs to know about about the policy. What does it cover? What does it not cover? And once more, every negative disclosure makes the sales process hard. So as a salesperson who is only going to get benefit from the transaction, you have no interest in good disclosure either way. And that was actually one of our very early learnings, that the more opaque you make the sales process in this industry, the less will be the disclosure. Both customer knowing what product they have bought and insurance company knowing what customer they have got, right? And they're both equally important. Please understand, the customer pays 1 rupee for a 100 rupee claim. So if 1% of customers come through who are 100% going to claim, you have started with a loss and you cannot take care of your other 99 customers. So both sides are equally important. And as I said, the salesperson has every incentive to disclose less, thus creating a transparent process which was recorded from day one was critical in our survival in this industry and our growth in this industry. Otherwise, selling insurance is the easy part. Making sure that once insurance is sold, both the customer and the insurance company are satisfied is the hard part. Right? If you also look at this particular industry, it's a very big complaints category where there will be some customers who would have not declared. There'll be some genuine customers whose claims have not happened. But everybody seems to be unhappy. The happy customer is not going to go and tell the whole world that, look, I had a very good experience. But the unhappy customer will. So you have to really build a brand where you are able to maintain loyalty despite that noise. So I think some very interesting pieces. It's also a fairly, I would say, regulated industry. It has a lot of lobbying, etc., that goes on. So you have to also survive those pieces. And I think at different stages in your journey, you play slightly different roles. But I think the startup phase was most interesting because if I look at the first 5 years of our existence, I don't think many people believed it was a very good idea. We had about 20, 30 competitors. And that's the other thing I think about as you all think about, your ventures, whether they are early stage or mid stage. Ideas are aplenty. Like PolicyBazaar, I'm sure there are 20 other ideas. But it eventually comes down to execution. The day we started, you all may not know this, but there were 20 competitors that already existed. And many of them funded, many of them better funded than we were. But for whatever reason, after 17 years of our existence, we have a very large market share within that bunch. And I think most of it is not down to the fact that it was a very good idea. It is down to the fact that you had very good execution and you learned a lot in that process. And every year you were learning from the environment, learning from the situation, and thus transforming yourself. Till today, there are 370 companies which have started, which built an insurance website for comparison. So that's not the hard part for sure. But over time, none of them could sustain. And I think that is the part, right? After, can you sustain 10, 20 years of execution? And then I think things would be fine. But I think I've spoken enough. I've spoken for almost 9-10 minutes, and I also started late. So I would love to, address specific questions wherever I can, because that is perhaps a more interactive way and a better way to make it engaging for everyone.
Definitely. Well, a truly inspirational journey. Now we can begin with question answers from the startups we have. Over to you, Dr. Amit. You can start taking the questions.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek. So Yashish, after this interesting and very inspiring journey that you shared with us, so we have a few questions related to the technology, particularly for the fintech sector. The first question is from Lata of Kokubus, the company name. So they just want to know what are some cost-effective strategies of integrating technologies like AI, big data, and blockchain in fintech applications to detect fraud and perform a risk analysis. So I think fraud and risk is something which is the prime target for most of the fintech products. So what should these, let's say, startups do?
See, for 99% of companies in the world, AI will be and should be a commodity. There will be 1% of companies in the world that would be creating AI, like today OpenAI is doing, or some other people are doing, right? Eventually, you have to know, are you a creator of AI or are you a user of AI? So when I talk about someone like PolicyBazaar, we are a user of AI. The moment that happens and you are comfortable with that situation, then as far as you are concerned, AI is a commodity which you will leverage every possible platform that is being developed in terms of its efficiency and in terms of its cost and in terms of how good it is, right? And so when you talk about risk assessment, let's take a few examples. Let's talk about car, right? When you take on a car, we do something called a video inspection of the car. And what does that video inspection do? It checks if there are dents, if there are scratches, if there are cracks in the glass or mirrors or in the lights. So once more, this technology is commodity. And I think I'm using the word commodity again and again. It's not to demean it, but it's to explain that that is not where the innovation is. The innovation goes with the flow. Who has the customers? And so for a company like PolicyBazaar, usually it would say, okay, the choice is, do I use an external vendor or do I do it myself? And we as a company veer towards doing it ourselves. because the base underlying technology that's being leveraged is essentially commodity, right? Because most of the other vendors are also using that commodity technology to prepare some kind of application on top of it. And the application on top of it does not really have value without the flow of customers, right? So many times what happens is you create an application on top of the base technology, but you don't have any customers. And you hope to be able to attract customers. That's too expensive. Or you hope to tie up with somebody to leverage that. You have to be very careful while building those businesses, because eventually the power lies with only two people there, the people with the base technology and the person who owns the consumer flow. Now, if I talk about some other areas, like, and that would also apply to claims. When the claims come in, we also have a similar video inspection that happens online. If I talk about life insurance or health insurance, there's lots and lots of cases that come in. We have the last 17 years of claims data. You would have lots of inputs coming in. You would have voice recordings. You would have video recordings. You have voice and video matching to check that the same person whose documents and video are matching was the same person who was there during the buying part of the journey as well. We would have geolocation to see if this person is based where they say they are based. You would also do health checks through video to see if their health condition broadly matches the condition they are saying they are in. Does their age actually match the age they are saying they are? Right? And there are once more, there are lots and lots of technologies today available as a base layer, mostly American or Chinese, that can be leveraged. Now, if somebody builds a base layer technology, then we are very keen to partner with it. But if it's an app on another technology, then we would rather build it. It might be sometimes slower. It might take us 2 months. But see, because building an app does not take more than a couple of months. So we might be slower by a couple of months, but the world is not running away, right? And so we would rather build it ourselves and thus control our destiny in that regard. When we talk about life, again, similar stuff. We track a lot of fraud. We track a lot of misdisclosure through various technologies that are embedded into the system. And this is used on a continuous basis. And a lot of this, when we say AI, it is fuzzy logic basis past data over the last 16, 17 years of data. So what we bring to the table is both the data as well as the current customer flow. And so that helps us somewhere, leverage these technologies. As we talk about efficiency in our operations, we again have a lot of utilization in the contact center. It is not just limited to routing technologies and connecting the customer with the best person to serve them at this moment, but it is also linked to summarization services, prompts, looking at risk and prompting in a live conversation. So, as I said, the way we think about it, we think of technology as the commodity which has to serve the business need. But we don't see the base layer of technology as the commodity. So if somebody can develop that, then we are very keen to discuss with them.
Right. So the threats coming from the technology need to be handled with the technology itself. Right.
Yeah.
So we have another question coming from Arun of ReadyNet Innovations. As a startup, while building data-intensive business models, how do we ensure the creation of robust data security architecture? And how do startups prepare themselves for the upcoming data privacy law? So I think this is a very common red flag which many of our startups get, those who are handling large amount of data, that how do you keep the data secure? So what's your view on this?
So see, the way someone like me approaches it, we hire a good CISO, Customer Information Security Officer, and make sure they know their job and they have done it at a decent organization to be able to handle it. They are the ones who interface with all the service providers. And on top of that, someone like us would ensure there are regular formal audits and informal hacking kind of mechanism set up, both internal tests. So someone like us will also run reward programs internally, because our belief is our employees know our systems best, and mostly the attack on data is internal. And so if we create a significant enough reward, somebody internally should be able to point out to flaws which have gone undetected by the various audits. And there is always a way to hack into any system. Nobody can say that the system is hack proof, right? So it's about staying one step ahead. And we get a lot of intelligence. So far, the maximum intelligence we've ever derived is from internal contests, which pay rewards for breaking the system. Yeah, I guess that's what it is.
Right. Thank you.
In terms of data privacy, see, we have to always have a very simple rule. Who does the data belong to? Data belongs to the customer, and thus everything must be done with the customer's consent, right? If some entity believes the data belongs to them, then that's their problem. We don't believe any data belongs to us. Either data belongs to the customer or the data belongs to the platform, to the provider. We are only getting access to the data basis permission either from the customer or from the supplier. It's just a simple approach. Then
on a similar lines, Yashish, we have another question from Vikram Lair from Tree Private Limited. They have a question like how can a startup can collaborate with authorities, and access government databases to refine their product applications, and train their IA models, like similar to like how PolicyBazaar access the data of a customer when he enters the mobile number or names something.
So I think there are lots of known government data places to which you can have access in a regulated, unregulated manner. Increasingly, you will find these will be regulated because you are getting access to some data which belongs to the government, which essentially belongs to the customer, and the government is the custodian of that data. And I guess you have to, leverage it in that format. We ourselves do quite a bit of it, whether it is the credit score data, whether it's the account aggregator data, whether it's the Vahan data, whether it is the whether it is the IIB data, and we have to do that in a regulated manner and through regulated channels. I think be extremely careful there. You don't want to fall foul of the law by trying to access data through some unsecured means or incorrect means. That may seem like a short-term win, but will definitely be a long-term loss for you.
They have to avoid the third-party data, which are not.
I think if you want to build an organization of repute, it's best to stay clear of that, because that will come to bite you one day, because this government is at least quite serious about customer data.
I'll take a couple of questions from the market access and related GTM and all. So there's one question from Amit Garg from the company WebZ. So they want to know what are some proven customer acquisition and retention strategies in fintech sector, and how can we approach our primary customers, and how do we ensure their continuous engagement on the platform? So getting the customers is fine, but then how do you keep them engaged and make them your repeated customers?
What we have found is that the best customer acquisition strategy actually continues to still be branding. And the simple reason is everything else gets commoditized. So whether you go on to search or whether you go on to Facebook or whether you go on to a social influencer mechanism, eventually other people can also pay for it. And they will have equal access to it. The only traffic which is yours is the customer who comes to you directly. And so we bit that bullet quite early on and spent a lot of money on that. And that part will not pay in terms of immediate ROI. Definitely not. It will be much worse than digital formats of acquisition. But we followed that and we continue to follow that. And we are big believers in that. Today, 85% of our sales come from direct traffic. And that's a very good position to be in. Otherwise, we would have a very difficult situation. Retention is a whole new game. You have to create two things. One is great customer service, and it's all relative. See, if you are not in Amazon's industry, it's very difficult to become Amazon. But you have to become much better than the rest of your industry. And if you're an industry which is ahead of Amazon, then being Amazon is no point. You have to become like, I don't know, like if you're in the quick delivery mechanism and Amazon delivers in 4 hours, then there's no point trying to deliver in 2 hours. You need to then deliver in 2 minutes, right? Because people are already delivering in 5 minutes, right? So I guess to each industry, you have to be the best in the benchmark, number one. And number two, you need to create opportunities for the customer to interact with you. So for example, if you look at insurance is a long gestation product. Hopefully, one should never need to use their insurance because you only use an insurance if you're in a bad event. And so someone like us would create sort of a My Account section where people can access their insurance policies, share it with their family members, etc. And that becomes a use case for, or we can have things like, car servicing or annual health checkups. You basically create opportunities for the customer to come back to you repeatedly. Of course, it's a lot easier in our PolicyBazaar business where we would have a credit score platform so that customers can access their credit scores on a very regular basis every month, year, every month, every week, even daily. So I'll stop there.
Yeah. So another question on market strategy is from Shivani Chawla, Exotic Delight. They want to know, how can we test our fintech product or idea with customers before scaling in the market, and what indicators help us gauge if our product will fit the future market, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So I think tier 3 is where the fintech is now growing fast after COVID, and basically product market fit, how do we ensure?
I think you can always do a test in a small location, which is a kind of hyper-local test. You could even do a test in a single office of a product to see eventually what 100,000 customers say will not be very different from what 10 customers say. I believe you get 95% of the answer with your first 10 customers. So I think focus groups is a great way to see if your product is going to have traction or not.
We have a few more questions, Yashish, from the financial angle. There is a question from Ajay Kumar, Mikey Guy. How can an early stage pre-revenue company define its valuation when its fintech products are still in a trial phases?
See, valuation is nothing but what you and the sellers, what you and the buyers agree to. And to some extent, at this point, all the fintech company has is your idea and you. And so you have to think about the value of yourself and your idea in the context of what similar organizations at similar stages have been valued, and eventually be able to find a likely investor, right? So let us say you agree that your value should be 100, but nobody else is willing to invest at 100, then of course your value is not 100. If people are willing to invest at 10, then the value is 10. See, you have to be practical about it, right? The value is what a buyer and seller agree. It is neither fair, there's nothing like fair or unfair or anything. What you agree is what is agreed. You might get high, you might get low. In this context, I would say don't be too value centric, at least in the early stages of your business. Try to be partner centric. Are you getting the right partner? Are you getting the right investor? Are you getting somebody who will be able to stand with you through thick and thin or not? We multiple times in our early stages did not take higher valuations and took lower valuations, as low as 40% of the valuation we were getting, because we believed, and we did not get any strategic partners, by the way. So it's not for any strategy, but we believed that the quality of investor who was coming on board was higher. So just like at a startup phase, two companies with the same idea and with the same execution at that stage can have very different valuations basis the quality of the founding team, right? Similarly, two investors can also have very different valuations. Money is not just money, basis their own quality. So I would definitely urge you to think in that way.
Very true. We have another question by Dr. Harsh Sethi, Trinanotech. Question is, for a technological innovation validated in a government labs and customer sites, scaling requires significant capital investment. While revenue remains low, how can a company with significant potential impact secure pre-revenue funding?
See, pre-revenue funding is possible. We ourselves got pre-revenue funding. It depends on your ability to convince. As I said, see the difficulty in the early stage or startup stage or pre-revenue stage, or let me say not even pre-revenue, even post-revenue, in the pre-profit stage, because actually the only thing you can really value is profit, right? So anything in the pre-profit stage just depends upon what two people agree upon. And either you can find that person to agree upon, which is in a way a reflection of your own experiences, that do you have enough access? Do you know enough people? Do you have a good, reliable background? Is your business model something which is likely to do well in other people's eyes, not in your eyes, in other people's eyes? Then there will be value. And there may be more than one competitors who want to invest in your business. And if that is not the case, then there will not be value. And I think as an entrepreneur, it's best to understand both possibilities and understand them quite quickly.
So we have another question from a mixed domain of grid and fintech. It's from Shailesh of PolicyBazaar. So he just wants to know your suggestions for developing agri-fintech solutions, and how can fintech provide credit solutions to farmers for crops?
Providing a credit solution to anything is not a challenge. As far as I know about credit solutions, all you have to be sure about is that you can collect your money back. There is enough money, there are enough takers of credit. There are enough providers of credit, and there's enough money to be made in credit. I think the only reason why credit companies ever do not do well is because they could not collect the money, or they gave money for wrong use cases, or they gave money to somebody to buy a cow, but the person actually went and gambled. So knowing that the use case that the thing was taken for is actually the case why is very critical. I think keeping those two things in mind. Of course, rural customer access can also be hard. So you have to figure out how you're going to do it. Is it going to be assisted, unassisted? Because people may or may not on their own. See, whatever we think, we may think we have a great idea, a great thing, but people don't have the time to bother about us. They have 100 other things going on in their life, just like we do, right? How many websites does an average person visit, or how many apps does an average person look at? So I guess, yeah, I think from an agri fintech perspective as well, the same rules apply.
Perfect. Yashish, we have few questions from sales and marketing point of view. We have one question from Deepak from Smart Waste Management Systems. So his question is, how does PolicyBazaar differentiate its brand in a crowded market? And what steps should be taken by a startup to enhance the brand positioning?
See, we've been very consistent. We want to focus on health and term. Health and term, when we started, were about 1% of the industry's premium. Today, they're about 20%. 95% of our advertising has been around health and term. It's been very consistent. मर जाओगे तो फैमिली का ख्याल कौन रखेगा? It's also been very consistent. If you fall sick, hospital bills are going to be big. Who's going to pay for that? Right? See, these are very serious matters. When the event happens, there is nobody there to support you except for the insurance company, maybe some very close friends or maybe some family members, right? So, but we have also decided to communicate it in a funny manner. Like, not be over serious about it, right? Because you don't want to spoil people's mood either. So it's a fine balance that we have maintained over 17 years, which does not go either way. It talks about very serious topics, but in a funny way. Things like, मर के आप स्वर्ग कैसे जाओगे अगर आपकी फैमिली स्वर्ग में नहीं है, right? फैमिली को नरक में छोड़ के आप खुद तो स्वर्ग नहीं पहुंच सकते. Things of that sort. But all I'm trying to say is almost slapstick comedy type treatment of a very serious matter. That has been the positioning of PolicyBazaar all along. So that positioning, communication is extremely clear. Now, many people will not like it, but it's not meant for everyone. It works for a segment of people, and it works quite well for that segment. Broadly, people earning between 5 lakhs to 20 lakh rupees, tier 2, tier 3, tier 1 cities. It's the same people who watch the soap operas, the Indian soap operas. They are the same people who watch the Indian comedy shows. And our brand is not for the it is not for certain segments. That's all. I just leave it there rather than defining which segments it's not for. It's a mass Indian brand. That's all.
So another question on the sales from Yagya Prakash of VST Finserv Private Limited. What are the factors to be considered by startup founders while designing and implementing an effective distribution and channel strategy, and how to approach right partnership or collaboration to enhance the distribution network?
Yeah, I think you have to know what distribution means to you. Is it just getting customers? Is it getting quality customers? You have to also understand what are the different access channels available. Like in our case, direct is one, but there's also a POSP channel and various other channels. Then you have to see which of them meet your cost of acquisition framework or have the potential of meeting. Sometimes you have to build your dynamic P&L. It could be for a long period of time, but you do need to build your dynamic P&L. And what you need to know is that 95% of investors will not look at the dynamics of your P&L, will only look at the static. They will only look at what's going on this year. They will not give you any credit for what will happen next year or the next year or the next year. Right? But you yourself as a founder need to build a dynamic P&L and find that one investor who understands your dynamic P&L, because that's what business is, right?
So, Narsim Sharma from Nitilaksh IT Solutions, he wants to know the sales promotion strategies that could be most effective in driving short-term sales and increasing brand loyalty among customers.
See, brand loyalty is not built by sales. Brand loyalty is built by service. But yes, you can derive quick. See, it's a difficult question because it will depend on which product category, what service type. But you have to kind of know where your customers are. Like if your customers are searching for that particular service on Google, then you by definition have to be there on Google. If people are talking about it on social media, then you have to be there in social media. If it's something nobody speaks about, then you have to be there on the internet at the times when nobody's watching. Right? So depending on what product category you are, you have to be available where the customer will look for you and when the customer will look for you. So I'll give you an example. If I talk about the insurance category, nobody wants to ever buy insurance. The only time people buy insurance is if something negative happens around them. They lose a family, they lose a colleague, or they lose a very close friend whose family is suffering the financial consequences of that loss or that disease, death, disease, or disability. Now, how do you know who's going to be in that situation? If you start advertising in hospitals, there's a chance people who are falling sick start buying your policy. If you start advertising at morgues, there are people, dead people might start buying your policies, how much ever smart you are. So what you have to do is somewhere be in the consumer's mind automatically beforehand, before this event happens to them. So that when the event happens, they have no choice but to come to you because you are the brand they've been thinking about. So for someone like PolicyBazaar, you need to build that background brand impression, which is there in the customer's mind already before they actually start thinking about insurance.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, very interesting point from the market strategy again, asked by Anchal Harit Bisdom. In fact, this is something which most of the startups that come to us, they are always worried about. How can one accurately find TAM, total addressable market numbers, in a diverse market like India? So generally, we see that people just go by the numbers, what is the population, demographic, or other ways, and just take it as their TAM. But how do you make it more realistic and accurate?
I think one has to be very specific. Like let's talk about when we started on insurance, right? Everybody told us 1.4 billion people, so much GDP, etc., etc. We said, listen, somebody who's earning less than 5 lakh rupees. People also spoke about bottom of pyramid. We said that guy is thinking about food. He's not thinking about insurance. If anything, he's thinking of buying a lottery. So that, he doesn't like his existence, that he wants to protect it. Sorry for using that terminology, but there's nothing to protect from a financial perspective in that existence. They want to get out of that existence, right? It is only when a person starts to get more than 5 lakh rupees that they have something which they want to protect. They don't want to go back into the pre 5 lakh rupee life where they didn't have a job, they didn't have anything, they were living from day to day. They were dependent on government subsidies. They were dependent on government healthcare. They were dependent on government education for their children, government housing for themselves. So they were living a life of subsistence. They don't want to go back to that life and they want to protect that life. We also realize that when somebody has more than 1 crore of income, they don't care about insurance. Probably they don't even deal with insurance. Somebody else does it for them. So we realize that, and also because insurance is a people subject, Most people who are earning more than 30, 40 lakh rupees are very few. And it's not just because they're earning so much, they're going to buy a very big insurance from you, which will be 10 times bigger than the person who's, earning 6 lakh rupees or 5 times bigger. That's not the case. Both require insurance. So we defined our market segment very clearly. We also realized that it's not defined as individuals, it's defined as family units. Because insurance is always bought in the family unit. So 80% of our customers are middle class. We also defined that before 25 years of age, nobody really buys insurance. So just because somebody has access to the internet as a 16-year-old does not mean they want to start buying insurance. So insurance is 10 to 15 years older than the internet in age terms, because the starting age is about 28. We realized families is when people buy insurance, because a guy who's not even married, if he dies, who exactly is the insurance for? So you see, you are getting closer and closer in defining your segment. More than 5 lakh rupee income, family, age above 28, right? We also said above 50, the person probably has access to some agents or some very good friends, even above 45. So 25 to 45, family head is our customer, and there are only 60 million of them. And the second thing, I think of these 60 million, 90 to 95% have already been to PolicyBazaar at one point or the other in their life, right? Our job is to convert more and more of them. And for that, we need to keep innovating on the product side. So I guess that's how you go about defining your particular addressable market, whether they have insurance today or not. Now, the other way people would try to define TAM sometimes is they could say, okay, take the entire industry size and say, this is the industry, and this is GDP, and this is, I think you have to be a little more specific than that. I just give you an example of how we kind of look at our own TAM.
Perfect. Yashish, next we have few rapid fire questions for you. This will actually help the audience to, gain some more comprehensive understanding of you from different angles. So it could be just one word answer. So let's begin the rapid fire now. What motivates you every day?
I wake up motivated, honestly. It's just I wake up very energized.
Biggest risk you have taken?
Biggest risk is not taking what society sees as risks. So not starting PolicyBazaar would have been the biggest risk. Not starting PolicyBazaar. And I mean that, right? For some people, they want to stay in the safety of their job. Please understand, most jobs are only secure for 1 month or 3 months. That's all it takes your manager to ask you to leave. So, don't believe in that security. I'll stop there.
Biggest challenge you faced in the early days of the PolicyBazaar?
Regulation.
What's your go-to comfort food?
Go-to comfort food.
Let me go there and eat, and the stress will be over.
Comfort food. Maybe I've changed a lot. Yeah, I don't look at food that way any longer. But at one time, it used to be sweets. But now no longer. Now I barely have any. Maybe water. Water is probably my go-to comfort food now.
Okay. So if you could change one thing about the insurance industry overnight, what would it be?
Take away the focus on premiums, bring the focus on sum assured. So start reporting sum assured rather than premium. It's like the hospital industry reporting how many people it treated rather than how much money it collected.
Perfect. So preferred workout, swimming or running?
Running.
I was expecting that. One word to describe your leadership style.
Trust and patience.
Okay. So being kind or being right?
Being kind, obviously.
What's one piece of technology you cannot live without, in your daily work life?
Mobile phone.
Okay. If you were not in the insurance industry, what would you be doing?
Maybe army, maybe healthcare.
Okay. Who's your favorite entrepreneur?
I like Sanjeev quite a bit, Sanjeev Bikhchandani.
Okay. So Yashish is the morning person or a night owl?
Morning person. After 9 o'clock, don't talk to me. I will appear very, very dumb. I might appear dumb throughout the day, but after 9, I've just zoned out.
Okay. So Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
Which is your favorite book?
Right now, I'm reading Outlive.
Okay. And what's your mantra for dealing with stress?
Everything passes. Everything passes. Nothing is forever. Eventually, we all die.
Right. So thank you, Yashish, for sharing your insights and being so candid in responding to these rapid fire questions. Ladies and gentlemen, now we'll bring this webinar to a close, and we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to all of you and to participation and insightful contributions. We would like to extend our sincere appreciation to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Yashish Daya, for taking out time out of his busy schedule and to share his expertise and experience. We would like to thank SIDBI for organizing this webinar. And once again, thank you everyone for being part of this webinar. And we'll be back again next month with another big name. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Yashish. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yashish.
Thank you, Dr. Amit. Thanks, Sangeet.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone,
Dr.
for being a
Sehgal.
part of this webinar.